Well, good morning, everyone. We appreciate you coming out. Thank you so much. I am Paul Schetzler, the General Manager of Consolidated Telecom. It's hard to spit that out even myself once in a while. General Manager here at Consolidated, and we're here this morning to celebrate the awarding of the ARRA stimulus funding to both Consolidated and Source River Telephone. So we're fortunate to have attended some folks from SRT who came down and made the long drive. Some of you, I guess, made long drives too this morning. And some of you got here awfully early. This mountain time zone thing just confuses a few people. So anyway, in addition to Christine, we have Senator Conrad here, and we appreciate him coming out and taking the time to be with us. It's hard to break into his schedule with all the travels he's got going on. And also with us is Jonathan Adelstein, the administrator of the Rural Utility Service in Washington, D.C. We appreciate him coming out. He was previously an FCC commissioner before being appointed by President Obama to serve as the administrator of the RUS. And enjoyed talking with him this morning as well. He's a native of Rapid City, South Dakota, but we won't hold that against him. Still a good guy. A few other people here we'd like to recognize. Jasper Schneider from the USDA Rural Development is here. Marion from Senator Dorgan's office. I forgot your name. He's from Senator Pomeroy's office.
Jeff Freeman.
Jeff. There we go. And so those are the folks we have with us today. Starting off our program, I guess I'll go first. It was with great humility that we recognized the award that we got from RUS. We'd like to express our gratitude to Senators Dorgan and Conrad and also Representative Pomeroy for their part in helping us receive this award. We also had help from our engineering firm, Cattermosley and Jackson, and also Wayne Algren helped us through the process a little bit, so we appreciate the help from all those folks. You know, the small bit of stimulus that we're getting really will allow us to install over 80 miles of fiber optic cable to about 1,600 customers who are really rural, and without this stimulus money, we weren't going to build it out. It just wasn't feasible. It would never pay off and would never be worthwhile. And so, with this 80 miles of fiber cable and fiber to the home to these rural customers in Belfield, Gladstone, New Raddick, and all these big towns in North Dakota, we'll be able to provide high-speed internet, broadband services to about 1,600 new households, about 1,300 households and about 300 businesses that we're going to be serving because of the stimulus that wouldn't have fiber otherwise. So get the benefits of high-speed broadband connections and the applications and services really that are just have already been developed or are being developed to be provided over that broadband network. You look at the size of this entire stimulus program, and this is just a drop in the bucket. But it's an important drop in the bucket for those folks that it's going to affect. If you're one of the 1,600 or 1,300 households getting fiber to the home, it might be the drop in the bucket that allows you to work from home. Or it might be the drop in the bucket that allows you finally to connect via broadband to your grandkids. Or it might be the drop in the bucket that allows you to start a business from your house. Or even move back to North Dakota, which is a pretty good place, and start a business, and come back home and start a business out in rural North Dakota. So, maybe the drop that is most important to a whole lot of people. So really, this is a thank you to Senators Conrad and Dorgan and Congressman Pomeroy and also Jonathan. Not from so much from Consolidated as it is from 1,600 customers out here in rural North Dakota that without this stimulus money would not have access. I can guarantee wouldn't have access to high-speed internet for a long, long time, if ever. And this will allow us to serve them and to serve them well with fiber to the home and bring broadband to them. So for those 1,300 families who will now enjoy advanced services that heretofore they've been unable to enjoy. We just want to say thank you from all of us to all of you. Thank you very much. That's all I have. Senator, do you want to say a few words here?
Well, Paul, this is a happy day. And I think all of us recognize the transformational nature of this award. $11.56 million of federal stimulus money, Recovery Act money, coming to a project that's going to make a big difference in the lives of 1,300 families and 300 businesses. And you're right, this would not happen if recovery money were not available because the economics just aren't there. And that becomes part of a big debate in Washington. Should taxpayer dollars be used for this purpose or not? Some say no. Some say, well, those people have chosen to live there. If they can't get access to the internet, well, that's life. But I think most of us recognize, just as we did when we electrified the countryside with rural electrics, just as we did when we provided telephone service to rural customers all over America with rural telephone, that if you're going to have a United States of America, you've got to have people out across the entire country. It can't just be an urban America. It can't just be New York and Los Angeles and all the big cities in between, but you've got to have a network of people and institutions that dot the countryside. And that really fundamentally is what this is about. Are we going to have communities that are viable all across America and all across North Dakota? Or do we want everybody to move to town? I personally think it's incredibly important to the future of our country that we have people spread across the countryside and not just have everybody go to town. And in this modern world, if you don't have broadband internet, you're not going to be part of this modern world. That's something I think we all understand. It is so good to have Jonathan Edelstein here. Jonathan, of course, South Dakota native. Jonathan, when Senator Daschle was here at a state convention, I introduced him by telling the story of the history of North and South Dakota. People of North Dakota know it well, but just a shorthand version so that you are able to take this back to South Dakota when you return. When the railroad came out, they had to stop in Bismarck because the bridge hadn't been built across the river. And at that point, they'd get everybody off the train and they would ask them, who can read? Those are the ones that stayed in North Dakota. The others were marched south to South Dakota. And Jonathan's parents or grandparents or great-grandparents may have been part of that group. I don't know. But look at what major strides Jonathan has made. We are so proud of you, Jonathan. And proud and proud of the job that you've done. Really first rate. And you couldn't have a better state head of RUS than Jasper Schneider. He has just done a remarkable job of getting these funds deployed across the state in effective ways. You go to Crosby, North Dakota, new hospital. You go up on the reservation, new broadband service. You go all across North Dakota and you can see the good work being done by RUS, and we appreciate it here in North Dakota. You know, when you add up all of the recovery assets that have come to North Dakota, almost $200 million in road funding, critically important to our state, critically important to energy development and agriculture production. Almost $200 million in Recovery Act money to North Dakota. Nearly $90 million in education funds. And I can tell you, projects being done that would never happen without that money. In RUS, I think you're approaching $70 million. And water systems. We were just down in south central North Dakota, major investments in water systems. Airport improvements. And I was yesterday in Mott, North Dakota, and they talked about the $1.3 million they got there. They said never would have happened without this Recovery Act money. So these are projects all over North Dakota, and I can tell you Senator Dorgan and Congressman Pomeroy, who played key roles in getting that money approved and getting it allocated to North Dakota, are very proud of the difference it's making in our state. We also know that an award is being made to SRT. I understand that's $4.4 million. Hope I've got that number right, Randy. That's going to make a big difference for people in that part of the state. But here in Dickinson today, we're celebrating what's being done with Consolidated Telecom, and we want to thank them for their leadership. We want to thank them for the extraordinarily professional job they do. And Paul, we want to commend you and all of your crew for stepping up to the plate and taking this on, because this is going to make a big difference in the lives of people. And at the end of the day, that's what's important. Thank you all.
Thank you, Senator. Jonathan, do you have a few words for us?
We could go over that history of North
I was actually going to do that. It's good to be in North Dakota here, less than an inch away from my home state. You got to think about the math for a second there. I know the math people all went south. Actually, the story, if you want to go back to history, is my great-grandmother homesteaded in the Badlands. So I often was so proud of her. She actually kept kosher out there in near interior South Dakota. And all these years I thought she made the good decision in going that direction. But her homestead now, and she actually got the homestead, is part of the Grasslands National Monument. So it's waving grasses down there. And I'm thinking, as I look out here at all this oil development, that maybe she should have taken a right instead of a left. That was the only mistake. I don't want to criticize great-grandma, pioneer that she was. But it is great to be up here and to congratulate all of you. We have really, whatever things you can say about North Dakota, you got to say they have perhaps the greatest congressional delegation of any. Just such a wonderful group led by Senator Conrad, who's done so much to try to balance the budget, so much leadership on agriculture issues. For those of us at USDA, we appreciate it. And Senator Dorgan, a good friend of mine who for so many years has been the voice of rural telecom on the Commerce Committee, which has really helped this state, and Congressman Pomeroy, who's a dynamic leader also on agricultural issues and somebody who cares about broadband. Just a fantastic delegation that you have here that made this day possible, that made it possible to have stimulus for North Dakota. All the numbers Senator Conrad was talking about come down to what we're doing here, what happens at Consolidated and SRT, that we're celebrating their ability to get broadband to people that otherwise wouldn't have it without the support of leaders like your congressional delegation here in North Dakota. And it takes a good work by our state director, Jasper Schneider, as he mentioned, is a fantastic state director. We have to card him to make sure that he's old enough for the job occasionally. But he's an outstanding rural advocate. And he said, you've got to come to North Dakota. You've got to get up here. We've got to do an event because this is so important to our state. And we've done so much good work. So I'm happy that he was able to help arrange this and spearhead it so we could highlight these two really wonderful projects in North Dakota. And there's, of course, others that have won, but today we're talking about these two. And we know that universal access to broadband is what's necessary to keep this rural economy going and to make these small communities work. It's for 60 years the Rural Utility Service, formerly Rural Electrification Administration, has been doing this. Wayne Algren now, you all know, is our representative here, our field rep, who's outstanding field rep in North and South Dakota. And Senator Conrad said, well, he's got to spend more time up here. Apparently, you've got a lot more money in South Dakota and North Dakota somehow. So we'll talk about that later, Wayne. But
Stay up here in the winter.
where it's nice and cool. He keeps cool. We really make this a priority at USDA. Secretary Vilsack, Undersecretary Dallas Tonshager, also from South Dakota, incidentally, and all of us at USDA Rural Development are committed to the President